All right. Welcome again, everyone, to the ACLU of Wisconsin's Social Media for Social Justice training. My name is Raisha Farmer. I am the Rights for All campaign coordinator for the ACLU of Wisconsin. It's a newer campaign for voting rights and also working in tandem with the Smart Justice campaign that's already in full effect. And I'm joined by my colleague, Emilio. Emilio, you want to say hello?
Hello.
Emilio's the Community Engagement Director at the ACLU of Wisconsin. You all may know him well. So tonight we're talking about how to use social media effectively to tell our stories and to engage folks in our work and our actions. So we'll be talking about storytelling here in just a few seconds. I'll head that section off. And then I will hand it over to Emilio, who will talk about videoing 101. What are the basic tips and tricks to delivering a good video? Then we'll do some announcements and let you know how you all can engage in our work here. We'll leave some time for questions before we wrap up for the night. And I'm going to jump into storytelling now and share my screen. Hi, Leah. So that you all can go along with me. Give me just a second here. Okay. Share. Can you guys see what I'm doing here? Great. Okay. So the first part of tonight's training is around personal storytelling. So this is a model that the Public Interest Network uses. The Public Interest Network does a lot of behind the scenes campaigning for a number of different nonprofit organizations and progressive groups. And this is the model that I find most effective, but there are lots of storytelling methods out there. We just wanted to give you one really good example. So I'm presenting this model. So when it comes to storytelling and the way that I tell stories, there's 5 major components. The first is to tell the story of the problem. And you want the problem to be you want to paint the picture in a very anecdotal way. So you want to tell the story that really illustrates for folks why this is a problem and what the problem is. Then you want to flesh out the solution to that problem, right? If you offer a problem, you offer a way to resolve it. And this is a really good time to speak to the work that you're already doing to address the problem, to speak to the work of those around you that are also addressing the problem, and mention potential actions to the folks that you're telling your story to. The third component is to answer the question of why here, why the location you're working in is a really key location to get the work done. So what makes your town or your state so critical? The fourth component is to explain why right now is most important to start working on this issue. Why is it so urgent? And why can't the work wait? The fifth and last component, which I think is most important and most key in terms of engaging people after you tell your story, is answering the question of why you. And I think this is a twofold question. Why you, meaning why myself? Why am I telling this story and why am I engaged in this work? But also why you, as in why is your audience, the person that is listening to your story, why is it important that they get involved? And so you want to start that process by making it personal and relevant, and therefore making it relatable to other people in your audience. You want to speak to the strengths of your audience, right? Because that's a way to encourage them and to knowing that they can be a part of taking action and be a part of the solution. Keep in mind that your audience might be the communal we. And then you want to also include in the why you portion of your story the call to action, obviously, because it's one thing to tell a story and get people all inspired. It's another thing to tell them what they can do with that story. So keeping those examples or those components in mind, I want to talk about briefly a not so great example of a story that I saw maybe a month ago. Someone shared with me a live video. I think it was like immediately after the April 7 election, maybe 2 days after. And long story short, I wasn't engaged in the story at all. I barely watched any of the live video. And that's because it didn't appear to me when I was viewing the video that the person had a plan or that the video was really going anywhere. So when the live started, the person going live was kind of yelling, ushering folks to join the live video as folks normally do, but in a way that didn't seem like the video was really going anywhere. It kind of dragged on for a while. And so I was turned off from watching the video from the get-go. And then as the video went on, I sort of started to fast forward through it and see like, okay, what's the point? Where are we getting here? And I noticed that the person going live often got distracted. And so they got off topic. And so they repeated themselves a lot. And so what probably could have been a quick 2 to 5 minute video inspiring people to be clean or be safe or vote or whatever, I don't really know, because the video was very disengaging. And so I didn't really watch the video. Whatever could have been a 2 to 5 minute video was like 15 minutes. And so I wanted to give you that example so you know that essentially poor storytelling happens when you don't have a plan, because not having a plan means that you lose your own message, therefore your audience loses your message, and folks might not even listen to the message at all. So with that said, I think one of the most important things to keep in mind is being a good storyteller just means having a plan. And it doesn't have to be super detailed, super drawn out, but just taking the time to figure out what story you want to tell is important for getting your message across and then getting people engaged and active afterwards. So I want to take you through a personal story that I developed following the Wisconsin presidential preference primary that happened on April 7th. And what you're about to see in terms of my notes and my plan is a little lengthy because we'll be sharing the presentation after tonight's training, and we want you guys to have some really good reference points. Also, if you're anything like me, you have a lot to say, and so just having as many notes as possible is helpful for guiding you. So if I'm telling my story about what happened on April 7th and using that as a way to engage folks, then obviously I'll start with an introduction of myself, and then I'll go into my story, and it'll sound like this. Hey guys, it's Rye. I'm here wearing my ACLU hat. Some of you may know that I joined the ACLU of Wisconsin as the Rights for All voting campaign coordinator a few months ago. And I am making this video just to talk about what I saw happen in the election on April 7th in Wisconsin and my thoughts on how we should move forward. I think, quite frankly, we're in a really scary place for elections. And that's because of the scary place that just COVID-19 has put us in, right? Anytime you go out in numbers, you're jeopardizing your health. And that's even scarier for elections because, as we all know, election day is a time when we all go out in numbers and try to participate in this election. I think, additionally, that threatens folks' rights to vote because we probably all have heard the saying that you either have to make a choice of your life or make a choice of casting your vote. And it's especially scary here in Wisconsin because we saw legislators and some elected officials and even our courts locally and nationally who didn't seem to mind that that was a choice that people had to make. And so as a result, folks who tried to participate from the safety of their homes didn't receive their ballots because there wasn't proper planning for getting ballots out to folks. Alternatively, folks who decided to take the risk of going to the polls had to stand in line and be exposed to COVID-19 and the resulting respiratory disease, coronavirus. They were standing in line exposed to that for 2 to 4 hours at a time. And thirdly, some people never received their ballot and they could simply not afford to go to the polls on election day. And so their vote just never counted. And so as I'm thinking about how we address all of that and what happens moving forward in my work, I'm thinking about how lucky I am to be a part of the Rights for All campaign because first I get to work with like-minded people from other organizations and within my own organization who care about the state of fair elections and who care about the plans that we have for moving forward and allowing as many people as possible to cast their ballot in a safe way. With that, I get to educate people who may not be doing this work every day. And public education is a major key, as they say. And one way that I get to educate people is by telling people my story, right? Sharing this video in what I think is a unique way. I am now talking to people in my everyday life, some of my closest friends who don't normally engage in these conversations and don't normally understand what we're talking about when we're talking about these things. I'm now talking to them about this stuff every day. So I think that's a really cool, maverick way to get people involved. And that's why I am telling my story and encouraging you all to tell your stories as well, and then to take action after we share our stories. And I do want to talk about what the actions are, right? It's enough to say, well, we can talk about these things and we can talk about our experiences. But first, I want to emphasize how important it is that especially Wisconsin gets involved in working towards better elections. First and foremost, Wisconsin was one of the country's first states that held an election in the middle of a pandemic, right? If not the first state. And if we take that to the next level, Milwaukee, a city in Wisconsin, is a city that is most at risk of disenfranchisement. One, because by nature, cities have lots of people in them. And so that's a lot of votes that either get counted or don't. And secondly, cities like Milwaukee have demographics that are largely made up of people who are oppressed and disenfranchised anyway, right? We're talking about Black and brown folks, people with disabilities, people who have language barriers, to name a few. And to add to that, if that's not already bad enough, we're now seeing reports of COVID-19 cases that are directly linked to folks turning out in droves on April 7th. Reporters have started to report that at least 52 folks have tested positively for COVID-19 as a direct link to going to the polls on election day as poll workers or to cast their vote. And of that, at least 40 people, health officials have said, have gotten the respiratory disease that results, which is the coronavirus. And so all that said, folks might think like, yeah, that's a big problem. Yeah, we should address it, but we have forever to address it, right? No, I would argue contrarily that we don't. It's really important that we act on this now because of a few reasons. First, we have an election coming up in a week and 5 days. In a pretty huge congressional district in Wisconsin. That's district number 7, congressional district 7. Secondly, we shouldn't wait because we can get ahead of these issues ahead of elections that are happening across the state on August 11th and on November 3rd, which a lot of people are really gung-ho about and are already thinking about in terms of the presidential election. And I also think as we were on the public stage and in the public eye, and showing people what bad can happen if we held an election and don't plan properly for it, we should also be in the public eye and on the main stage and telling people how to address that and resolve it and what lessons we can learn from that. And so ultimately we have a tone to set for the state of Wisconsin and for really the entire country. And if we don't address this, then the number of positive tests for COVID-19 and coronavirus are just going to rise. The number of people who are disenfranchised from our electoral processes, those numbers are also going to rise. And so ultimately, that's why I'm telling this story and asking you to tell your story too. I think we all know people or are people who were disenfranchised by the election happening during the pandemic without proper planning. I know my mother was not able to cast her ballot. My father almost wasn't able to cast his ballot. I know people with mental disabilities and health compromised autoimmune systems who were terrified leading up to the election on election day, and then felt really hopeless after election day when they couldn't cast their ballot or they knew people who couldn't cast their ballots. And it's easy to feel that way, but I want to remind everyone that Wisconsin, especially Milwaukee, I'm a huge Milwaukeean being born and raised, we are a city and a state of resilience. On election day, people still showed up and people still made sure that their vote was counted, even if that meant risking their health. That says a lot about the city and the state. In addition, people took care of each other. We saw folks getting seats for elderly people who couldn't stand in lines for 2 to 4 hours. Poll workers worked hard, really hard, to make sure that the polls were sanitary, and a number of other things showed the resilience and the resistance in the city. And that being said, we have the power to act and to get fairer elections as soon as possible. So with that, I think the best things that we can do are A, continue telling stories like these and the stories that you hear. And B, if you want to take the next step and go the extra mile, I think another great action you can take is signing the ACLU's petition for better elections. After April 7th, we worked with our partners to create a list of policies that expand the electoral process to make sure that as many absentee ballots go out as possible, to make sure that people have as many options aside from absentee ballots to vote, and a number of other things. And I'll drop that link in the description for you. But that's the next step, is taking a look at that petition, signing it, and letting our elected officials know that you want to see real change, specific changes listed in our petition happen, so that we don't have to make this choice again in May, in August, and in November. And that's my story. So hopefully that was helpful for you all to see that example. I'd like to kick it over to Emilio, who can now tell us about, how to couple storytelling with a really good video.
Thanks, Rye. That's, give me a second here to mute all of this feedback. Very, very powerful share you had, very powerful story, and I love the message of resistance and resilience. You can tell from my lovely accent that I am not a native Milwaukeean, but I'm proud to be an adopted son of Milwaukee. And to that end, we're going to talk about some best practices in how to share video and also how to create your own short videos. Given that so many people are at home for the safer at home orders, and they're able to share and engage in digital platform, which has much farther reaching ability to tell one story than just personally over a cup of coffee or at work. And so we're going to talk about how you can effectively do that. It's really easy. I'm going to share a little cheat sheet that we made, and then you can see that we shared the link to the petition that Raisha mentioned, and a little cheat sheet for the for everything I'm going to tell you. So follow along. For those of you in Zoom, I dropped it in there. For those of you watching on Facebook, I dropped it there. And we've got a shortened bit. And I'm going to mention a sheriff's toolkit guide. We're going to have 2 actions at the end of this. And so you can engage on either the voting rights action or the decarceration of jails action. We encourage you to follow your passion, get deep into the one that most interests you, and then link those things. If you have all the time in the world to dedicate, please do both. We both appreciate you. So social media sharing and video basics. So you may not be feeling creative. You may be shy. You may not want to make your own video. You may want to just experiment with sharing other people's videos, and that's great. And there are ways to do that. If you're on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, if you're on Twitter, you'll see that a lot of people just repost something. So I might notice something great on Raisha's Facebook page. I click share and it pops up on my page, or I will go add it to a group I'm a member of, the Whole Milwaukee or ACLU Student Alliance or ACLU Milwaukee chapter or Rights for All group, and I just reshare it. Some people may see it, some people may not see it, but based on both human interest and algorithms, people are going to look at it more if you create a line of introduction. So think about, you're going into a party and you've got your friend with you, and you're just bringing your friend to that party, but you're not introducing them to anybody. They don't know anybody there. They're just kind of standing in the corner. You're not doing your friend or the people at the party any big service. They're not going to be able to meet one another properly. You want to do a little introduction. So you may say something like, a very painful article I shared just a few hours ago about how we've just heard in Kenosha, they tested the folks that are incarcerated at the jail there, being detained in the jail, and there's 79 positive cases of COVID at the Kenosha County Jail, and 5 staff members tested positive to COVID. So what I did is I said a sentence or two about it, how horrifying this is, how this is a grave thing, and we've been talking about it. And then I shared the TMJ4 article. More people will read this and respond to this, and you can see those sorts of metrics. You want to not just have a wrench in your drawer, you want to have the wrench, use the wrench, and tell people how to use the wrench. And a lot of people are on the go, they're reading it on their phone, they may not be able to read the whole thing, they may want to save it for later on, they want to know if this is important, or if you're just sharing another funny cat video, which is also important, but not that important. You want to have a little line of introduction. If you can't think of a creative line, then you can at least just cut and paste a sentence from the article, if it's an article that explains what it's about. More people will notice and read that article if you share a sentence from that article. The same is true if you're sharing a video. So maybe there's this great live video or a great video somebody else has posted. Either create your own sentence for that video or share the introduction sentence for that video. You want it to have some sort of punch. The other thing is if there's an ask in that video like this, so when we were announcing that we were gonna have this Facebook meeting today, this town hall on social justice, social media, we made sure that we linked to the event itself. I see every day people saying, don't forget to join us here later on today, we're gonna be doing this thing. But that's shared somewhere else, and I have no idea where that is. And now I have to play detective and find out where in the world Carmen Sandiego is hiding so I can see this thing, which doesn't say the time. It doesn't really clearly say what the thing is, just that it's great and I should be there, and I have to dig into it. You want to give a couple of the who, what, when, where, why. That's pretty common sense, and we're not going to get that much deep into it. I just want to let you know that for the algorithm's sake, at least on Facebook and Twitter, say a little bit about what it is you're introducing. The same thing is true on Instagram. Have a little link. Now let's talk about a couple of video basics. We're going to talk a little about shooting a video, and we're going to talk a little about how to make 2 effective types of videos, a short video and a longer video. And these are autobiographical videos. I'm not talking about how to be a director, manager, plot writer, all of these different things. I'm just really talking about how to do a quick, informal video, no makeup. I've done some cleaning my gutter of leaves, and silly as that sounds, people will engage because you're in this strange environment. So video basics for making your own video. And again, you can see it linked in the shortened URL there. It's great if you want to listen to me. It's even greater if you want to make your own video and you can print out the sheet later and use it as a guide in the same way you can use Raisha's PowerPoint from earlier. The first thing you want is a quiet space. And so that can be pretty challenging, especially during Safer at Home. I grew up in a very tiny place in Flushing, Queens, with a lot of folks crammed in there. There was no such thing as a quiet space. So you use some of these. This cancels out the noise. I cannot hear my 3 children, my 3 dogs, my 2 cats, my wife, or any of the folks around me right now, because this is plugged in. It also dampens the external sound. So this is my quiet place. You want to try to have ample lighting and good lighting. So I'm sure we're all getting Zoom fatigue, and you've been in meetings on Google Hangouts. You're looking forward to Zuckerberg's new Facebook version of that. Maybe you're using Zoom, you're using something else. You want to make sure that you're front lit. And what front lit is the opposite of backlit. If the light was coming behind me, if I had a raging fire in this fireplace, you'd actually see my face dark. Also, you'd hear me screaming because it would be hot. But you'd see my face would be dark and the back would be lit. That's not effective for a video unless you're doing some sort of strange Jessica Jones, spooky kidnapping video. You want your face lit so that your audience can see who you are. They can track what you're saying by watching your lips. They're watching your body language and body movement. You want to use natural light if possible. Doing a video during the daytime using natural light with some augmentation from electric light is best. You generally look better that way. You want to check the mic and sound ahead of time. So with the ACLU, we create a variety of videos. You can go see the most recent video from Melissa Luden, where she did a number of takes. She tested her audio ahead of time. She worked, you want to see if the microphone on your laptop or your desktop is turned on, whether or not, you're using your phone microphone and you had something funky in your pocket and it's over the microphone. on the bottom, and you want to clean off whatever that funkiness is so that you don't sound, you know, like Darth Vader. And maybe you want to plug these in, because ideally speaking, it's like this. Some of you may be making videos in your car. Some are very effective. Our Rights for All organizer from the Fox Valleys area, Leah Revels, has made some really effective videos from her car. And you may have a Bluetooth plugged in for that, or you may not, and you want to check that. When I'm speaking to my mom or abuela on my Bluetooth, I have that volume jacked up and I'm essentially shouting. And when I talk to my wife in that same mode, she doesn't want to hear it because there's all sorts of distortion. So make sure your sound levels are checked before you go live. Look at the camera more often than not. Some people will have a script and they'll be reading it off to the side like this, or they'll have it down on the table like that. And doesn't make for compelling video. So it looks like I'm looking at you, and I'm looking at Raisha mostly. But what I've also done is a little cheat here, and I've got my outline for what I'm doing, and I've taped it to the back of the chair. So it looks like I'm in this fancy production. I'm not. I stole my son's chair. I put my laptop on the chair, and I taped the script to the back of the chair. And he's sitting on, I don't know what he's sitting on. I don't care. I have a table. Another thing you want to do is practice with a friend first. If you're not a natural ham bone or a professional or semi-professional spoken word artist or MC or somebody that's used to doing presentations or a teacher, practice with somebody. People get nervous. They get very excited. They think, oh my gosh, I'm going to be on TV. You're not on TV. You're on Instagram or Facebook. Very few people are going to see you. You have to do this with some regularity to expand your audience or make something golden, like the TikTok we'll show later of David Carlson, this beautiful boy, and have that accidentally go viral. Use a script if you want. There are little teleprompter things you can find for free on the internet, and that can slowly scroll across your screen. And for a shorter video, you can use that. And be yourself. People want to see and hear you. You don't have to get all fancy. I didn't have to put on a powdered wig and a tri-corner thing or my Elton John glasses or anything fancier than, you know, my Vote t-shirt. Yesterday I was wearing a Motorhead Thin Lizzy t-shirt. You know, be yourself, because people want to see you. They care about you, and they care about your human direct message. And experiment and be imaginative. You know, if you've got, you're familiar, you're at Hogwarts, you got a cat, a rat, a snake, a frog, bring that in there. You got a pet dog comes in, makes a little cameo. Our colleagues, we love baby time. Like I love, you know, my colleague Sean is there, and he's got Sean Jr. on the Zoom call or the video with him. That's great. People are happy to see that. Don't be worried about it being a blooper reel. Do try to keep background noise to a minimum. You'll see some people make videos and they've got like their mood music on. They're really getting back into the classics because they've been home. They're an hour 48 of listening to Marvin Gaye's I Want You, and they're getting depressed and they're cranking that. Your microphone is going to pick up the audio, the ambient audio, almost as loudly as it's going to pick up your speaking if you're not using headphones. So the people viewing you are actually going to hear some sort of distorted stuff. You want to cut that noise down to a minimum. Also look behind you. Don't have it be super duper distracting if you can help it. So let's go into the two types of videos. You have a quick little 30-second to 2-minute video, and that's the type of video you want to create to be shared. And that's different from doing a Facebook Live or an Instagram Live, which is longer and more informative, like a presentation. The 30-second could be a 15-second, could be 15-second, 30-second, 2-minute long video. But generally, people aren't watching videos much longer than 2 minutes at all, unless it's something incredible and magical, and you've got all sorts of stuff that you've been hyping up for a while. You're going to share something quickly. They're going to look at this thing quickly. They're going to decide if they like it or not, and they're going to share it. So to go back to my first point, when you create a little video, you have your catching headline, important information you must know about your voting rights in the pandemic primary. Important information to know about the pandemic and releasing people from jail. Boom, it's the headline. Quick, it's the link. You don't have to wax poetic. And you want to have an effective story like Rai told you to share. Who are you? What are we talking about? Why is it important? Here's the message or the ask. And you have to get to the point with the 30-second to 2-minute videos. Sometimes people will have this warm up and they're talking about all sorts of stuff for a long period of time. That's nice, and maybe you have a quick way to engage with somebody, but for a 30-second to 2-minute video that you want to share, you don't have the luxury of that much, you know, talking about the weather and your gardening and this and that, unless it's part of your shtick and it is entertaining or it is intentionally poignant for a poignant video. It's going to bore people. and you want to get to the point. And that's why you want to practice. If you're nervous and you tend to do these things as a way of loosening up, get that done before you do the 30-second to 2-minute video, and then work that in there. You want to establish these basic things. You want to say who you are. Hey, friends. I like to begin with friends all the time. My enemies probably aren't watching me, and if they are, I didn't invite them to watch me. They're just trolling and scrolling on my page. I can't help that. I'm not addressing them. I'm addressing my friends and the thousands of folks we have that are in it to win it in this fight for liberation. I like to say, hey, friends, this is Emilio, and I give a quick personal background. I would say what the issue is and why it's important, what my call to action is. And this is why I need you to call Governor Tony Evers immediately. This is why I need you to call Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes and tell him to use his influence to push to have compassionate release of people that are in prisons now. Or this is why, whatever that ask is, name the person you're asking and how to contact them, and then have that info repeated in text or with the URL in the link, because people may listen to you and they're not going to remember. Or you have this long, complicated URL that's https:// or is it // I don't remember, ampersand Y3 capital I. Forget that. You lost everybody. Short. Like, I got a bit.ly for you. I made a bit.ly. There it is. I'm not going to tell you what it is because it sounds ridiculous. And then tag others. Now, this is essential. You've got this great message. You read this great article. You're doing some things. There's something, one of our organizers, I'm in the Green Bay area. His name is Christopher Zahn. He's a brilliant man. He's got a wealth of experience. And what I like that he does is he every day has this intention where he is inspiring others and himself to be more, to do more, to self-actualize. And what's great about these things is you want to tag other folks. Now, I can post this thing. You'll find, I'm sure you've seen this, a lot of friends who first were on Facebook, I don't get this. Or, you know, the meme about elders randomly addressing people on Facebook like, Joe, happy birthday. I just wanted to give you a shout out. They haven't tagged Joe. Nobody knows who the hell Joe is. He's got 50 friends named Joe, so it could be any of them. That's a misguided usage of social media. You want to specifically tag some folks. So I know if I'm inviting people to see this workshop, I'm going to tag all my main posse. I'm going to tag Raisha, I'm going to tag Molly, I'm going to tag Shaw, I'm going to tag Melissa, I'm going to tag Leah, I'm going to tag David, I'm going to tag Ray, I'm going to tag Christopher. And this way, these folks are influencers, and they're going to expand that message to other people so that other people see this message. And so maybe I'm tagging folks that are in my message. I'm tagging folks that I want to be a target of the message, and I'm tagging my team that's going to amplify that message. And we all have a team. We all have people who want to be a team, or we all have people that have a great team. Whoever those folks are, tag them. If you don't know who your team is, tag me and Rye. We would love it. We'll be part of your team. We are here because we're part of your team. You create this video, you're fooling around with it, you want to experiment with it, tag us. You're not sure how it looks, message us offline. We're happy to work with you about it. Neither she nor I are shy at all. And we're part of a big team too. Molly is our silent partner in this deal. She's producing this. She's making sure that we're seamlessly integrating Zoom and Facebook right now. I'm bringing this message to all of you. There's this huge, deep wealth of folks on these benches at the ACLU. We're happy to help you with this. And that's going to expand your reach, because if you felt this was important, then you should say why it's important and tag other people so they can amplify this important message. So that's your 30-second to 2-minute thing. Practice it, short and sweet. Who are you? Why is this important? Who do you need to move about this? And where's my link so I can follow up on that later? Tag some homies to share this message. Boom. That's the final part of this thing. Actually, I want to backspace. You can also do that with photos. So another one of our great organizers, Ray McWhirter, down in the Racine area, did a lot of great posting, especially during that pandemic primary on April 7th. She was helping us find information, and she'd take a photo and then right above that what that was, and then tag some folks in it so that we knew what was happening. So it's not just that I'm going to turn on channel 6 or channel 4 or channel 58 to watch the news. You're making the news. You tag other people to let them know that this news is happening, and then they're going to look, and then they'll re-elevate and re-amplify that news, and they'll know it's there. And we were asked important questions about the ballot boxes for where folks could do curbside voting. We knew the answer because Ray and other folks on the ground had already taken photos of them and tagged us in this, so that when the need arose, we were able to respond to that. And that's Ray McWhorter. I see some questions folks are saying, who's in Racine. If you don't know Ray, she's dynamite, and we'll put you in contact with her later. So I've actually mentioned all four of our Rights for All organizers. Look at that. So creating a longer Facebook message is a little funnier, and you got a lot more forgiveness in creating a longer message. Because what you're doing, think of that a little like a telethon, and you're going to repeat yourself several times. You're going to have the introductory sentence. You may have a link to what your call to action is, whether it's a phone page, whether it's the phone number of the elected official you want to put pressure on. Maybe it's your DA, maybe it's your county sheriff, maybe it's your county clerk. Maybe it's the governor, maybe it's the lieutenant governor, maybe it's State Rep Robin Voss, maybe it's Senator Fitzgerald, maybe it's whoever it is. You just make sure you have that contact info so that make it as easy as possible for the listener to get engaged. Again, you explain who you are, but you're going to do that several times. You want to thank people for watching you. You give a quick personal background. You follow all the ingredients that Rye put in her workshop on how to tell an effective story. And then you do it over and over again. So the call to action is repeated. And why is this? Because it's much like people tuning into this webinar that we're doing. People are going to come in, they're going to watch you for 5 or 6 minutes. They're going to give you some heart emojis. They're going to give you a thumbs up. They're going to give you the scowly face and the sad face when you're talking about some scowly, sad stuff. And they're going to give you a shout out, the fist thing. And then they're going to move on. Or they're going to watch some of this, and then they're going to hear the kids broke something in the kitchen, or the dog jumped through the screen window, or their neighbor's stealing their Amazon package again. And they're going to have to go get involved in that stuff. And then they're going to come back and speak to you, and they're going to have missed some key moments, and you're going to repeat that. Also, it's not like we don't have that cash, okay? We're not the next hot episode of Watchmen or Devs or Kim's Convenience, right? Like, people aren't sitting down with their honey and they're gonna, kick back. They've got their glass of tap water, and they're gonna give you 30 seconds of uninterrupted attention. They're gonna watch some, they're gonna come in and out, they're gonna watch you a little bit and then move on. And you're gonna have to keep sharing this information, because new people are gonna join when they happen to discover, because they've logged on to Facebook or Instagram, that you're doing this thing. And so they will have missed part of it, and then you're gonna wanna share that. You need to repeat the needed engagement, and how the viewer's assistance is important and necessary. You also want to elevate people by name. So if I were watching this on Facebook, I would say, hey, Connie Madsen, I see you've joined us, shout out. Or I see you're watching, Rachel. Thank you for kicking in, and check this out. I'm going to cheat while we're speaking to you. I'm here on Facebook. I see my friend James is watching. I was proud to see brother's graduation, MATC, and now he's teaching. I see my friend Tamika has joined us. Rufus has joined us. Molly's joined us. We got folks from all over the state watching us, and this is a beautiful thing. And I didn't make that up. I just jumped over to the Facebook Live. And so if I'm only using this on Facebook Live, I'm going to see people as they're watching us, and they're sharing their inspiration, their testimony, and their pointers. Again, making the personal connection and repeating it. After you're done with the video, you'll have a chance to upload. It'll say, do you want to upload this? Always click share. It's not going to use the word upload. I apologize. It's going to say share. Share that video. And when you're done, you have a little bit of forgiveness. Tag all the folks you forgot to tag in the beginning. Maybe you were nervous about deleting your URL when you did it. You have an opportunity to send this and tag other folks. And people will always listen. I didn't tag Leah in a post last week, and she got to me the very next morning at 8 a.m. like, dude, I was so hurt. You didn't tag me in that post. Why'd you tag everybody and their uncle and not me? I was like, my friend, I must have accidentally deleted you, when I was correcting my spelling. Who knows? Get in there and do that. And if you do this regularly, maybe you set up a regular time. Right now, my colleague Hope is doing some youth programming, and she's going to be doing this at a regular time, at a regular day of the week, so that folks know that they can log in and get this. Maybe you have dinners with Dave, and every day David Carlson O'Clair is going to invite you into his dining room to eat dinner with him, and he's going to talk to you about stuff. He's not going to do that. I'm just putting him on the spot. Or, you know, maybe you have like 6 a.m. yoga with Raisha, and she's going to talk to you about voting rights and sun salutations. Give me a thumbs down on that. And you're going to get involved. Whatever works for you. If you were with me at 7 a.m., you had grumpy ass Emilio walking his 3 dogs simultaneously in the rain and hating life. And that was not going to be a fun live. But do these lives, and you'll see some folks doing this really effectively. We have great community leaders here in Milwaukee, like Vaughn, who does a lot of, from Program the Parks and many other worthwhile programs here, who does a lot of Facebook Live, whereby he'll have a thing, and then he'll share the message. And he responded immediately to the horrific actions that occurred the other day. And folks watch this and they engage this. Why? Because they know that he's consistently doing Facebook Lives, whatever that is. We've been playing and engaging with that now, and now more than ever, your voices is going to be amplified. Your message is going to get out there. More people are going to hear from you because folks are all home watching Facebook right now, and the metrics are through the roof. If you share something important about voting rights now, I guarantee you a lot of folks are going to watch it. And even if they haven't watched it while you're doing it live, because you've shared it up there, you can return and visit and see the number of folks that have seen this. So we did a town hall Monday. Sean Wilson and I did a town hall with Carl Fields from Racine, Peg West from Milwaukee from Expo. We talked about a variety of issues. I don't know, we had like 80, 90 people watching that. By the next morning, over 1,000 people had seen it because we left it on Facebook for you to watch, and people were able to dip in there. So your messages really count and resonate. If you tell an effective story along the recipe that Rai shared, you will convey these things in an important way. And get this out there. Now, there's a new platform I don't have so much experience with, but I want to share a great video that my comrade in arms, Dave, did. It's on TikTok. These short little videos. It's kind of like Vines were the du jour, and we're going to share. And this gets back to what we were saying before, like experiment. David, you know, isn't a TikTok, you know, master, but darn if he didn't have the cutest guy ever. I'm going to shut up and let's watch this. And you see that? And Knox stole the show. That video was like 5 seconds long. And he didn't even have to speak. They were, I don't know if they were playing music or what, but he was able to add little bubbles with the essentials and get that information out so that people knew to register to vote and then turn out to vote. He took a chance. He did something he'd never done, and he experimented, and he had fun, and it was a success. All of you can do this too. And everybody wants to see you. Why? Because you matter. We care about you. Other people care about you. And this is our time now. These folks that are getting paid to give these professional messages have failed us. They're not listening. We need to push them to decarcerate people. We need to push them to make sure that our friends sign these petitions, and they make it so that we don't have to jeopardize our lives to vote. They have to make sure that we are being as fair to everybody as possible so that we stop the disgusting, almost genocidal impact that structural racism is causing COVID to have on our Black brothers and sisters across the state, especially in Milwaukee. And we don't have what's happening immediately right now in Kenosha. 79 of our family members and friends who are in jail have COVID, and 5 staff members have COVID. And this means it's all going to get out right into Kenosha County. Folks need to decarcerate now. I'm sharing the sheriff's toolkit there with you. There's links for action, and we encourage you to follow some of these steps. And before I turn it over to, actually, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan. I'm going to be quiet now. I'm going to sip some water, but I'll share the links so that you can follow up. Thank you.
Yeah, to that point, there should be links in the comments, both on the Zoom and on the Facebook. And Emilio and I are going to share all of these things on our personal social medias, as well as links to the actions that you can take. But just a couple quick announcements about what actions we'd love to see happen. First, again, on voting. Please share your stories about why elections matter, what you saw happen on April 7th or in a different election, and ask people to share their story and also to sign the ACLU of Wisconsin's petition so that we expand election participation and we make sure that they're fair and don't risk people's lives. And then Emilio just mentioned that we got to contact our sheriffs and folks and let them know to decarcerate folks in Kenosha and across the state, which is an effort we've been working on for a few weeks now. And so also ask your people to call their sheriff and tell them to let folks out of jail who don't need to be there, specifically folks who are elderly and who have vulnerable immune systems and are likely to suffer if they contract COVID or the virus. I think we talked a lot, so I think it's now a good time for us to address any questions that we have in our chats. Are we seeing any on Facebook, Emilio? Molly and I can check the Zoom one.
We're seeing a few things. We're getting a lot of shout outs. Folks that are watching, Salika over in Eau Claire said shout outs are great. Wendy Routier said, thank you for this. Thank you guys for this information as well as the toolkits. Obviously, this is a team effort. Raisha and I are assisted by our great Rights for All organizers, and Molly and Sean and Melissa.
Yeah, again, those organizers are Melissa, who does Smart Justice and has been doing Smart Justice in the Appleton area for a while now. We just hired four folks across the state to help out with Rights for All voting stuff. So those are Ray McWhorter and Racine, David Carlson in Eau Claire, Christopher Zahn in the Green Bay area, and Leah Revels in the Oshkosh, Appleton, Fox Valley universe. She's really holding down out there. And then obviously I'm the point person for Milwaukee. So
we got some more messages. This is being reshared everywhere, Raisha. It's really great. A lot of folks are watching this right now. David says, do not listen to Emilio and show up at my house. Anthony out in his neck of the woods are like, okay, what time do I come by, David? So it was just an example. People are excited for these tools. I think that they're going to be useful, right?
Yeah, we're excited that you're excited. All right, if you guys have questions later, feel free to contact Emilio or I. Emilio shared our Facebook handles, I guess you call them, on his social media video cheat sheet. So you can contact either of us whenever. Again, shy. But in the meantime, again, do share your stories. Do ask people to sign the petition by the ACLU of Wisconsin so that we see better elections. Do ask people to share their stories and contact their sheriffs so that we can begin getting folks out of jail who don't need to be there and be susceptible to COVID-19 and the coronavirus. With that, thanks for your night and your time tonight, and have a good one. Bye, everybody.